now the waves are actually breaking on riprap versus what they were doing, you know, in October, when they were breaking on your backyards.
Funny part is, I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to figure if these lakes where they should have been prior to the hurricane, we would have had a lot of the problems hitting the riprap instead of the land. The lake was overfilled the day before that hurricane.
Definitely probably help contribute. If we go through to a couple pages, there's some attachments you'll see with this report. This one's kind of boring, it's just my references. So this is just for description. This is what you guys have now. This is your 200-foot no speed zone. You guys have a lot of buoys out there. I don't know if you lost any during the storm. It's very easy for me to put this into a format your GPSs will use on your boats. So if that's something you guys would like, that's something very easy for me to provide. I can give that to the boating community in multiple formats, and you guys can use it as needed. I know as a boater myself, sometimes not knowing, are you in the no-wake zone, are you out of the channel, etc., can usually constitute a stop from FWC, so I know that can make it a little easier on you guys. And if we keep going, next page, next page. All right, so here are some aerial photos from yesterday. The photo at the top is the waves generated by the pontoon boat. He was going about 15 miles an hour, created, you know, essentially very small waves breaking on the shore. And then the picture on the bottom is the wake surfing boat on his first pass, which is when he was ballasted the most. He was pushing the biggest wave he could towards me, and that's when we experienced that 6-inch wave at the shore. Next page. So this is the picture of the wake surfing boat as it's going by at, you know, the perfect operation for wake surfing, which I've never done, so I'm kind of interested to see how that works. And then on the bottom is the resulting wave that was generated on the shore. So that's the conclusion of the report. So if there's any other questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll be
How far out is the boat, the white boat?
just past the buoy, so right around 200 to 230 feet. We talked about what is the proper distance, and we wanted to be as close to the buoys as practical. And your boaters kept reminding me, well, you're not going to be right up on the buoy because you're going to have a skier and you're not supposed to be skiing on the other side of the buoy. So they were using their best judgment of where was a safe line past the buoys.
If the boating is released and the activities start on the lake, is there any portion around the lake anywhere that you have, that you'll be able to monitor to see if this erosion occurs by allowing the boating to continue?
What we could do is find what are the worst backyards and, you know, put up some kind of stakes to monitor where's the toad slope, where's the top of bank. There is some things we can do, but the hard part is contributing are the waves that cause the erosion generated by the boats or wind-driven waves. And just knowing that the wind-driven waves can exceed what the boats are capable of is going to be, you have to have some really detailed monitoring to determine how many people are out on the water that day versus the waves that were created versus I mean, happy to do it, but my staff that works for me would hate to sit on your lake that many days just watching gauges, but happy to do it. A couple in the back, red shirt was up first.
Yeah, but even in the places where there is no riprap left and no rocks left, if that, even a wave that size hits, it's going to take the dirt out of the side of the...
Right, but with the level of the lake, now I did not go every single inch of the lake. I did pop my head into a few backyards before, you know, drafting this report, and everywhere I could poke my head in it, and from a boat ride I did with Mr. Ron Rex and Chip about a month ago, most of the water level had receded enough where there was some rock exposed. Now, if there is areas that are just sand with no gravel at all, then those are areas that can be
areas
identified.
that are completely exposed with no sand or rock, just dirt from the side that fell on top of it.
Right, and from the ones I saw, like the gentleman's resident I was at yesterday, his backyard definitely had a lot of escarpment from the wave energy, but the water level had lowered enough to where the waves were breaking on rock. So if there are areas that you're having the waves break right on sand instead of rock, those can be identified, and you can talk with your QCA board about special zones. But you know, without doing a boat ride of every single linear foot of the lake, it's hard for me to comment. Here,
Yeah, just a quick question. Is there a specific water level in the lake where somebody shouldn't be boating?
I saw the signs you guys had up that said due to high water, the lake is at an idle speed restriction. Without working with Josh, the other Josh, to find out what levels is the lake being maintained at, it's hard for me to comment on. But yes, if your water level is where your waves or your wake is breaking on the shore, landward of your seawall, then that would be an issue for concern.
Well, my question was similar to that gentleman's, and the question is, if we were to go ahead and approve that you could operate watercraft out here, what happens when we hit the rainy season and the lake rises? When do we know that it becomes untenable to continue?
For the meantime, what I would do is just use when is the rock within, say, when is the water within a foot of the top of rock that's existing, until repairs are made. And when that comes, I'll be happy to readdress it with you guys and make different recommendations. But until the water is enough where the boat-generated waves would be breaking past the rock, I think right now you're safely covered.
So you'll be able to monitor and tell us what your personal opinion is when that water rises.
It'll only cost you a boat ramp slip so I can come fish your lake.
Isn't the weir, can't we take a look at the weir we have?
I haven't looked at your weir more than just the boat trip that Chip, Ron, and I took back in, was it December or early January? So I haven't looked at the details, and I'm also an ocean engineer, not a civil engineer, so usually I don't do too much with weirs.
Did you find out there was a wheat problem out there?
Yes, during our initial boat ride, I had my brother with me who does some of our construction observation. He also does lake maintenance and management, and he identified it as Illinois pondweed. So I don't know many weeds. I know rocks and seawalls and docks, but seeing the amount you guys had, it did, when we were putting our proposal together for the CDD, I wanted to be able to present you guys with a price for side sand sonar to image where did all the rocks go. And my surveyor said, I'd love to do it, but I can't. You've got too much weeds, so I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to depict the shoreline. So you guys do have quite a bit.
Do you think we should take care of that before it goes wrong?
Well, I know right now the Solomon course, you can't go around without, getting your crop caught up with a bunch of weeds. So I'm sure they'd love for it to be taken care of. As more of the fishing side of me rather than the engineering side, I know you need some kind of plant structure to hold the fish. And you guys have littoral plantings within your smaller canals. If you are to eradicate the pondweed, I would just make sure that you have whatever's necessary, one, for your permits, but two, something to attract the fish, because right now, you guys have, in my opinion, some of the best lakes for fishing that I've seen.
So your survey of the lake banks, is it, are all of the lake banks going to be inspected to see that the slope is correct and the toe is put in right?
I'm not 100% sure. Right now, that's under Josh's scope. We're just assisting him. But, once he has all the data, we'll be reviewing what he has just to assist him in all capacities. But yes, I would assume so. Yep, all right.
Jerry, I'm going to call on the board to discuss and vote on something. On September 27th of 2017, the board adopted a resolution which froze all recreational boat activities that created wake on the Corey Lake systems. In order to move forward to restore recreational activity on the lakes, the board will need to rescind the resolution dated on September 27th. Do I have a first from the board to rescind that resolution? Do I have a second? Open up for discussion from the board.
I just would like to maintain the fact that if anybody violates the 200-foot meter, the fine still is intact. If they get within 200 feet of the shoreline, the $1,000 fine still takes with the weight.
Okay. Any other discussion from the board?
I'd like to put a stipulation in that if there's any, I don't know how to quantify it, but maybe we need to work on it. If there's a period of extended rain, that we monitor the level of the lake to ensure that we're protecting everyone's home, so that if we need to call that company back in a couple of months, or when we get to the rainy season, we're cognizant of the level of the lake. So I think we should take a measurement. I'm sure you can tell us what the level of the lake is now. At what point should we be concerned and run another test or whatever?
Discussion from the audience?
I don't think you have to worry about boating on Boulder Lake. It's nothing but weeds.
Okay. Any other discussion?
And that leads to my next question. I think Laura is on the committee. Do they have any intentions on doing anything with the meeting over there?
Yeah, I serve the community on the Heritage Bay Umbrella Association, which is a Quarry Heritage Bay grouping. And we watch both communities to make sure they're maintaining the surface water management system, which is the permit, the water flow permit. And that's why the two communities are intertwined, because the permit is intertwined. So Heritage Bay is responsible for the maintenance of the recreational lakes on their property. And I know that they do have a weed mitigation plan in place normally. We'll follow up to find out with the no wake zone that has been in place. I know they moved their funds to Irma cleanup on their shorelines. I also know that the weir, which is the outflow to the Cocohatchee Canal, which is our security blanket for our lakes not overflowing into our properties, that Heritage Bay CDD is petitioning the district to make changes to that weir to increase that flow out. So I will have more information on that. There is actually a best practices meeting in March where all of these groups that take care of our lakes come together, and that will be posted with Adam so that they can attend that.
Thank you, Laura. Very informative. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor from the board say aye. Motion passes unanimously. So with that said, we have a secondary resolution that we're going to adopt at the meeting tonight. This resolution says that the Corey Community Association has the right to adopt reasonable rules and regulations to manage the QCA amenities, including but not limited to the recreational usage of the Corey Lakes. Therefore, it be resolved, each Corey boat is limited to 2 hours per day of towing water sports participants. This includes, but is not limited to, water skiing, wakeboarding, tubing, kneeboarding, wake surfing, and barefooting. This limitation applies to all 3 recreational lakes, Stone Lake, Boulder Lake, and Heritage Lake. Also an add-on now, as we just talked about, the original fine structure is going to stay in place for the original resolution, with a 30-day suspension and a $1,000 fine. And the addition will be that once the rainy season starts, we will monitor the levels and look to redo a new test to see if the levels have reached a certain height that we need to suspend recreational boating again. Do I have a first from the board for that resolution? Do I have a second? Discussion from the board.
There are no buoys up on Boulder Lake, so you're gonna need to put those, they're still on land. If you want people to stay,
Right.
I think he said 300 feet.
200.
He's still at 200 with everything. It was 300 before they actually did the wave study, but after they've done the wave study, it's to 200 now. But
No, he said 300 on Boulder Lake.
He did,
Still
he didn't
there?
say 300.
No,
Right.
That was in his initial report, his draft.
Correct, he amended the report to 200,
Well,
correct,
regardless, there are no buoys on Boulder Lake,
correct.
okay? So
Okay.
you might want to put those back.
I will get with Bill Pfister, and we'll get those buoys back up, we were just talking about that. Discussion from the audience.
Can I ask the question of the 2-hour limited towing? I'm not a boater, I don't own one, so I'm asking my boating friends here, as a homeowner, boating is a big value to my home. Is 2 hours too restricted, or is that like a reasonable amount in days?
I hate to refer to Peter, but I'm going to refer to Peter because he
Thanks,
has,
Peter, that's what I wanted to ask anyway.
No,
If Peter can
very,
just-
very few people are going to be actually towing. In fact, I live on the lake, I'm here 5 months in the winter. I've hardly ever seen anybody out there actually towing for more than 2 hours. And plus, I think post-Irma is probably a good idea to approach this conservatively for all of our shoulders. And I've talked to a number of boaters, and none of them have expressed any pushback. I think it's 2 hours of actual towed activities is a long time.
So if they are out on a boat,
They can vote all day
not
long.
towing.
correct, you can vote all day, we don't have a limitation on
So they
voting.
just have to keep, that's going to be hard for anybody to enforce, as to how many hours we're
That would be pretty
actually.
obvious.
Yeah, I think it's, it will be hard to police, but I think it'll be kind of obvious if there's an individual out there starting at 9 and it's 1 o'clock and he's still out there doing the same thing. So if you do see it, obviously let us know in the office. But that's the resolution. We have a first and a second. Any more from the audience? Okay. All those in favor, aye? Jerry, aye? Okay. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to move forward now. This is a modifications appeal being made to the board of directors. This modification was submitted to the modifications committee, reviewed, and the original proposal was denied. The modification chair, Dennis Lundgren, is here on their behalf. Laura Severance, Pat Arnaz, Jody Tatro, Paul Moorhead consist of that board as well too. We're going to refer to the modifications committee to make their presentation to the board first. Do you have their stuff ready to go? Sure. Dennis, I believe you're up.
Good afternoon, I'm Dennis Lundgren, co-chair of the Modifications Committee. I'm not sure where this, I haven't seen these slides, so I'm not sure where we're going with it, other than I thought I'd just give you a quick background on what happened during the process. There are five members of the Modification Committee. 4 of them were present as part of this review. 1 member recused themselves because they have a personal relationship with the owner who was making the modification request. So we went through the process, and basically the modification was to extend the pool deck and cage into lake maintenance and drainage easement behind their house. We checked into this and found that should the HOA allow this to be done, then Collier County will actually review the process. But the HOA has to approve it prior to that happening. When we saw that it was on an easement, the covenants and restrictions don't allow easements to be encroached on. So it was decided that they could extend theirs a pool deck and cage, approximately 18 inches till they got to the easement line. At that point, they couldn't go any farther according to our committee. So the appeal was denied. We had a meeting with them, directly with the committee, to hear what their issues were. And they were under an impression that a lake maintenance easement and a drainage easement are two separate easements. Collier County says, no, it's a combined easement, it's a single easement. So without regard to going into more detail, the committee has denied their application to build into the easement. Anything else, Adam? I don't know what else is up there.
It's not, you won't be able to read it, it's much too small, it's enough.
That's the timeline.
This basically is from our minutes of our various meetings regarding this thing as it goes through a chronological order of all the events that happened. And rather than bore you by going through each one of them, I just summarized previous events. Pardon me?
There's a picture that, Paul.
Yeah, if you keep going, Jerry, I think Paul prepared some slides.
We did check.
Yeah, no, he has.
Paul did extensive due diligence and looked at every property in the quarry to assure that no one had crossed an easement line. And even found that when Centex was building houses, and maybe even Pulte, that if a property line went into an easement at all, that the pool cage or the pool deck was actually angled to stay out of the easement. So we found nowhere in the quarry was this encroachment ever taking place.
Hey Dennis, with the way the hurricane destroyed that land, does that change anything on the rebuild?
No, the easement is still the directed easement that's in the county books right now. The fact that they might have lost some amount of ground into the lake doesn't change the easement line. So it's still, in their case, it was a 35-foot easement. And so once that lake is repaired and brought back to its normal and condition of prior to the hurricane, then that seawall line will still be maintained, as we understand it.
I have a question. Have we refused any other residents of going into the residential presentations?
Yes, we have.
And you've already set the precedent.
Pardon me?
You've already set the precedent.
Oh, yes, that's, I mean, basically, we're looking at the covenants and restrictions. We are not creating new ones or making up our own interpretation of it. This is basically what's in that book everybody has.
Well, consistency is very important.
And so that's exactly what the committee wants to maintain, is consistency and fairness across the community, to keep our community at the level that we'd like to keep it at.
Did you just say that their easement was 35 feet?
It's a combination drainage easement and lake maintenance easement. And I don't remember that.
You said 35 feet. There's easements in here that have 25 feet.
There are different size easements everywhere in here. It all depends on where you are, and what property you have, and what the size of the easement is, and what the,
There's other easements in the forest.
and what type of
that are
easement.
5 feet. So it seems like they have an extra 10 more feet that they should be able to make.
There are.
Folks, I'm gonna let Mr. Black make his presentation, then the board is gonna have to nominate it with a first and a second, then we can open it up for discussion. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Black so he can make his presentation and then move it around.
First off, my wife Regina and I would like to thank board members for allowing us to bring forth this appeal. And Dennis is right, there is much confusion regarding easements. And believe me, I went to great lengths to try to understand what these easements were all about and the various easements in our community. We respect the work that was done by that the modification committee does. We understand the need and function of a modification committee and to be consistent, as somebody mentioned, to be consistent with all members of the community. And we're also aware that the modification committee, when we presented this, was relatively new at the time. And the decision was made on our request, and perhaps the committee did not have adequate information at that time. So let me bring everyone up to speed. Regina and I had a backyard that there was a lot of ground shifting, the pavers were cracking, the foundation supporting our spa was cracking, and in fact, the pavers were moving so much our lanai started coming down in some areas and was very weak. So we decided at the time we wanted to renovate our backyard, and we thought, geez, it'd be nice if we could extend it a little more and have a little room on the other side of our pool so that we could enjoy a little more sunlight and utilize our pool area better. So we went to the county. We were not trying to do anything that wasn't on the up and up. We went to the county, asked them to explain the easements to us, and told them what we were thinking of doing. The county told us, after reviewing with us after several meetings, that they felt that this was probably not an unreasonable request, and that they didn't need our 25 feet of easement, not 35, it's 25, I have the survey here. But they didn't need the full 25 feet. We asked them for 6 feet, and they said that they didn't think it would be a problem to move forward to get this approval. However, they needed a no objection letter from our homeowners association. So we said fine, and we then presented our case to the modification committee, and I think, as Dennis explained, their reasoning was nobody's allowed to build any permanent structure in an easement area. We accepted the decision, but we felt it was very unfair because there are several properties in our community that are very close to the shoreline. We certainly had no intentions of doing anything that anybody else hadn't done. We weren't asking them to make an exception on our behalf. I think the modification committee either had a lack of knowledge or didn't do their homework, or perhaps they were being discriminatory, because we were well aware of properties that were built very close to the shoreline with lanais and decking. So let's look at some of the properties in the community that violate the modification rule that no one can build within the easement. And I'm sure there's many more besides the ones I'm going to show you, but Regina and I felt there was no need to survey the entire community, because as we started through the neighborhoods, we immediately recognized how many residences did violate this building within the easement. So could you please just show me the survey for the Gibson, 9213 Gibson, right there, down one. It's 9213 Gibson. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on here, but I don't know, can you see the map? There's a 20-foot easement. It's written down here. I don't know, 20 foot. Now that's lake maintenance easement and drainage easement. Okay, so can you go back to the picture on that property? You have to go back to, there's 9213, I think there's a picture there. Okay, do you see the property between the lanai and where the riprap starts? Because that's about 14 feet. And I know that because Regina and I went back there with a tape measure. That's 14 feet, and the easement is 20 feet. Okay?
And there was no destruction with riprap.
And then there's no erosion here. This area didn't get disturbed at all, but you measure, you look at the area from here to here, 14 feet. The easement on the survey is 20 feet. Now, I don't know how these people were able to do that. So we walked down here, we went to another property. Can you go to another, there's another property on Gibson, 9221.
Just for us novices, where does the easement start?
Yeah, you need to pull
The easement starts at the end of the grass.
The easement easement starts from the
18 inches from the back of the
line
to the water.
to the shoreline.
You got a foot and a half. You own a foot and a half past your lanai, and then the easement starts.
If you want to go back to another picture, there's a 9221, please, on Gibson also. That's 13 feet, I don't know why this is black out here, but it's 13 feet 10 inches, 7 feet to the drainage easement from the back of the house.
There's another one, it's the same.
There's one, there's me with the tape measure. You can see how close I am to the shoreline. That's not very far.
No erosion, that's the way
And
it is.
this is the drainage easement, and that's where I am. Now, I can go through, and I have a list of 12 properties here. I don't want to waste everybody's time, but we can go to, if you want to go to Flint, 9163. And I have a list for the board if they want. They can go back and measure all these. But that's Flint 9163, that's 14 to 16 feet from the lanai to the shoreline.
Can I ask a question? Are these all pools that were added afterwards, or did
No, some of them are. I actually have a property where they built the lanai after the house went up. And that was 16 feet from the cage screen enclosure to the shoreline.
With a 20-foot easement.
So, and most of these areas I look at, the easements are 20 feet throughout the community. So, like I said, we did a lot of homework. I've done a lot of measurements, and I'm more than willing to share this information with the board and let them go back there and measure. But at this point, I think everybody realizes what we think that are valid cases before the board. We feel our request is very reasonable. Could you please, just one more picture I'll show you. I'm not going to show all these other pictures, but go to Hideaway, which is my property, the one at the very top. Now there's a huge difference between the area I have and the ones I showed you, because ours is 26 and a half feet. And we are asking, what we are requesting was not to build some of these enormous lanais that some people have done in some of the properties that I would be showing you, but we're asking for 6 feet, which is, it's about 4 feet where the mulch is along the back of our pool edge, where some playing, we're asking a couple more feet. So it really has no impact on the rest of the community. I don't think anybody would even notice it if we did it, but we wanted to go through proper channels and get approval from the county and the HOA.
So where's the drainage easement on this photo?
Right down where the dent is, to see the dark lines.
I think
way down.
it's there. The drainage easement there is about 14 feet from our pool. And I also want to tell you that we have no intention of doing this if the county doesn't say it's okay, or if